Welcome back to part 3 of The Ranch House, chapter 3 of a Thora Silentblade tale. Thora's shoulders sagged at the realization that the device had not been activated first. The element of surprise was gone, but Thora wasn't out of ideas yet. With someone still pushing on the door, Thora quickly took advantage of a distraction in the hallway to slip through the other door and into a secondary hallway. With any luck, the others had reached the front of the house by now. But Thora's part of the plan had failed. There might be still a chance to recover if Thora could move quickly enough. Through the door, Thora could hear a few of the men talking about the strange occurrence of the door being temporarily stuck, and at least one voice whistling its way towards the outhouses. Slipping away down the hall, the dwarf's squat frame moved quietly into a sleeping quarters that joined the two halls. Through the door, Thora could see a man picking up the device from the floor and examining it. Moving as quietly as possible, Thora advanced upon them from behind, but it was too late. They had figured it out. "Gas attack!" shouted the bandit, loud enough for half of Rhyme to hear. Damn it. Shedding caution, Thora charged up behind the man and thrust a short sword up under his ribcage, taking advantage of the element of surprise. Quickly scanning about, there was no sign of the others, but Thora appeared to be in some sort of foyer with a large staircase blocking some of the view. Through the railings, the dwarf could see a group of men abruptly stop their carousing and begin scrambling to their feet. It was about to get very real in here in a moment. Suddenly, through the front door, a cloud of fog began filling the hallway, obscuring Thora's vision of the men. To the right, in what must have been a kitchen, a smash was heard as a window broke. Then, making an abrupt entrance, the dragonborn bard burst into the fog and began stabbing at the shadowy shapes. Thora was fairly certain the bard had said, "Boo." This was just the distraction that was needed. Picking up the canister of poison from the floor, Thora remembered to activate the device first, and then tossed it towards the area filled with fog. The bard seemed less than pleased to be caught in the midst of a gas attack, but Thora could only shrug. They had enough to deal with right now as the chaos began to unfold. Thora barely had time to spin and attempt to parry as a bandit came rushing from the hallway right at the dwarf. Leaping over the banister onto the steps above, Thora tried to take advantage of the high ground, but the bandit was more skilled than expected. Taking a blade to the flank and noticing another figure coming from the office, the situation was not favoring the rogue's preferred ambush tactics. Beating a hasty retreat to the upper levels, Thora scanned around, trying to find something that could help. At the top of the stairs, the floor plan opened up. A window was nearby, and, based on memory of the directions Thora had taken, was likely overhanging the back exits of the ranch house. All around the dwarf was a large library, which was interesting given the seemingly crime-focused ways of the Cavendish organization. If anyone came in pursuit, there would be plenty of places for Thora to hide, but none particularly large enough to fool most for long. Returning to the top of the stairs, Thora took in the scene below. The elf had just exited the kitchen and was facing off against a larger man, possibly Cavendish himself. There was no sign of the other bandits. Perhaps Zarek had taken care of them? In any case, the one they were likely after seemed ready for the picking. Pulling a knitting needle out, Thora flicked it expertly across the room, striking the man in the back of his head. Caught in a crossfire between the dwarf and the elf, the man panicked and began running for the door, hoping to escape. Thora briefly wondered if the man was feeling the fear that those poor would-be heroes had felt as they fell unconscious at the meeting, choking down poison gas. That would have been fitting. Thora was not about to let this man escape the ranch house. Running to the window, Thora crouched up on the sill, waiting for the man to come out the exit. There would be no quarter, no stay of the hand. Poised in the dark, ready to pounce, the dwarf felt the rhythmic thumping beat of a heart in battle for the first time in a long while. The door never opened, though. Instead, a loud thud came from the hallway below as the elf's bow sent the man to an early, but not uncalled for demise. The dwarf cast one last look up through the window, taking in the stars. The night air was just the right temperature, and Thor could hear a coyote howling somewhere in the distance. It was damn near picturesque.